This is a massive risk for the Toronto Raptors, as we just got a major report drop regarding the Toronto Raptors trade plans following Bobby Webster officially being named the head of basketball operations for this Toronto Raptors team. Of course, a lot was made at the start of the offseason about the Raptors' pursuit, the Raptors' push of landing a big name, whether in free agency or via trade at the start of this summer. And now, with Bobby Webster officially given the reins to command and organize and strategically plan this team's future, there is some major updates in terms of how this plan has adjusted with Bobby Webster now at the helm, with ownership still raining down on the Raptors front office. So we're going to break down what this report is saying, why it is a major risk, what they are doing on multiple fronts out here for this Toronto Raptors group, and how there's an avenue, how there's a path where this could pay off for the team, even though it is a serious risk. So lots of stuff to break down out here in this video, but folks, you guys have been crushing it hitting that subscribe button as of late. Appreciate every single one of you, but still over 53% of our viewers have not hit the subscribe button just yet. I want to see you guys not miss a single thing with this Toronto Raptors team, now especially that we have a head of basketball operations officially named in Bobby Webster. But what's going on? What's happening with this team? Well, we just had a lot of news drop, which we are going to break down. So Jake Fisher came out and revealed, firstly, the Raptors have been given some pressure by MLSE to end this rebuild that they've been in. And this is something that we've been hearing at the start of the summer. And a lot of people were saying, hey, a lot of the reports and news coming out at the start of the summer wasn't very Masai Ujiri-esque. It was ownership coming into their own, trying to push an air, trying to get some changes happening for this Toronto Raptors team out there in the future, and, pressuring Masai Ujiri to either get a home run hit, or at least to swing at a home run and see how it plays out, or inevitably get fired. And obviously, we played this graphic, we played this animation a ton of times, in terms of all the rumors, the KD updates, the Giannis updates, whatever the heck it is. The Raptors were big fish hunting. And now, with Bobby Webster officially at the helm, we are getting similar reports popping up out there in the mix. So there was a lot, so we're going to break it all down. Essentially, the Raptors are trying to shop the number 9 pick in this year's NBA draft. They had conversations with Boston about Drew Holiday and Derek White, trying to find ways to add either veteran to their backcourt. Of course, that didn't happen. We got, quote, laughed at by Brad Stevens with one of those official moves. So that is something that's being discussed, being talked about, and all that stuff. I don't want to rehash all of those things that have come at the beginning. But basically, they don't want to just be a play-in team. They want to be a real factor in the postseason. And firstly, I don't mind any of this. I don't mind this stuff, even if it's coming. I know Edward Rogers doesn't have a great, track record to do great things, but I mean, the Jays are rocking here now at this point. I'm willing to give him hope, with Bobby Webster and this stuff. But I don't mind the Toronto Raptors being ownership pressure. And hey, let's get out of this rebuild. Let's be competitive. And Bobby Webster buying into it, going in that direction. That is not what's risky. If they make some crazy, wild moves, then that's where things get crazy. But where does this factor in with RJ Barrett? This is what I really want to get to in this whole discussion. Essentially, news has come out that the Raptors have already marked as a buyer as we get close to the trade deadline, and RJ Barrett is certainly a name I'm trying to tell Raptors fans is a candidate going out the door, and his $30 million salary as a buyer. Now, this, firstly, is very interesting in regards to the RJ Barrett discussions, because this is a little bit of a different report than what we've been hearing, because the Toronto Raptors are over the tax right now. This is something that we brought up, broken down in recent videos, and essentially ownership, Eddie Rogers, one of the reasons Uncle Eddie, gets some haze because he doesn't want to go the tax, if the team is not super competitive. The team is over the tax right now, and, essentially RJ Barrett's one of those contracts that can go out, that can get us under the tax. But what we are hearing now in this report is RJ Barrett's salary would be used in sort of a move to bring in, a buyer. Like, the Raptors are acquiring talent by giving up RJ Barrett, which I find to be very, very interesting. Now, of course, I think RJ Barrett is a phenomenal basketball player. I think he's really, really good. And if you take a look at his stats, he had 21 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 5.4 assists. The Raptors have a lot of talent on this team, but the reason a lot of people are bringing this up is frankly because RJ Barrett's fit around with Scottie Barnes, around this current group, especially where you have some guys like Gradey Dick, you have guys like Rajaković Poeltl out there in the mix that play a similar position that are a bit more of a stylistic fit. I get all that discussion. I get all that discourse. I still think it's going to be tough given his contract situation, given the current state of the NBA, to get a major upgrade from RJ Barrett without, sacrificing a lot of your future, without sacrificing a lot of maybe depth out there on this team. But that's neither here nor there. That's a risk that's going in that direction. What's really risky about this move, what's really concerning about this discourse and discussion is essentially the fact that this update here, that RJ Barrett's representation is fully aware he is someone that can be discussed in trades moving forward. Now, essentially, some people might be like, oh, what's going on? What's happening with this? You know what I mean? We know this. Your agent's going to know this. Everyone under the sun knows RJ Barrett's going to be talked about trade discussions. But if there's a report coming out saying this representation is fully aware, acknowledges the fact that he is being talked in trades and stuff, that is going to be very, very tough on a guy that's supposed to be a crucial piece out there in the Raptors rotation. A guy that I have talked about as being the best player on the Toronto Raptors this most recent season, of course. Scottie Barnes is the higher upside. You bring in Brandon Ingram, how things fit, how things work. I'm not big on, publicly throwing out your top guys out there trade discussions. It doesn't usually work. It doesn't usually build big team morale. And you look, it's something like what was happening to the Toronto Blue Jays. You have Edward Rogers, who also is the owner of the Blue Jays, so I'm referencing them here right now. But Jays weren't that great at the start of this season. And a lot of it is because there was a lot of noise, a lot of headaches, a lot of annoyances around Vladimir Guerrero's contract not getting that big extension. And the Jays were losing some games. I watched them get absolutely smoked by the Orioles a couple times at the start of summer. But there was a little cloud hanging over the Toronto Blue Jays season because of that concern to one of the Blue Jays top guy and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. If you have RJ Barrett, now at this point, with new management, everyone saying he's dangled in this, his representation's aware he's getting dangled in trades, that could lead to some serious just awkwardness out there in the locker room, lack of chemistry, lack of things really working out for this team. And I am a full believer out there in wanting to see this group actually have a chance, actually have an opportunity to play, to work together. I want to see them at full strength before we end up making any blockbuster moves. It's one of the reasons I started this movement too. I got the raw graphics getting pulled up here now at this point, but the RJ Barrett keep RJ movement that you guys have been seeing me play out there all summer. But I think this team is deep. I think this team has a lot of talent out there on the roster, and I don't want to just immediately write off, like, again, stylistically, the way these guys have been playing the last few years individually, yes, I see why a lot of people this doesn't really make a ton of sense. This isn't the perfect fit. This isn't all that. Sure, valid criticism, but I think this team is too talented to not figure out. And I think what people are underrating about this team, a lot of good character guys out there in this organization. Darko Rajaković has really turned around the vibes. I think people are just going to fall into place in terms of figuring out where they're going to fit out there on this team. I don't think there's a lot of egos on this group. I think this is a squad that can actually be very, very effective for next season. And a lot of people, want to dump RJ and say, he's not that guy. He said this. I want to see it happen first. I want to see how this group plays before we end up blowing it up and stuff. And frankly, if we're trading RJ Barrett, I don't think we're just out that much out there on the trade market. From all the rumors, from all the reports about the value of these guys, I don't think there's a lot out there that's going to be, that much better. Now, of course, guys always ask for trades, and we get one of these, Giannis pops back in the discussion, whatever, right? Like, if any of these names, of course, I'll eat my words and say you got to trade RJ Barrett for that type of package. But right now with what's going on, I want to see this group play, and that's where I'm standing on it. And if there's locker room issues, because RJ Barrett knows he's in trade rumors, I don't think RJ is going to cause a big stink or anything like that. But if you have those issues that are going on, it could lead to some awkwardness out there in the basketball, in the locker room that could translate out to the basketball court, which I'm not that interested in seeing. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys have the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.